Dark Discoveries is a podcast that dives deep into the darkest corners of history, mystery, and the downright bizarre. We discuss real events that may include graphic detail, adult themes, strong language, not suitable for all ages. Listener discretion is strongly advised.
We're here to inform, entertain, and maybe make you laugh nervously in public, but never to glorify criminals or make light of victims. Our research is thorough, but hey, we're not perfect.
We don't claim to be historians, so if we get something slightly off, blame Dustin. All opinions are our own, and sometimes even those are questionable.
I like her.
She's already dancing.
She's ever jamming out. I already like it. This is going to be a good time, guys.
All right, guys, welcome back to Dark Discoveries podcast. I'm your host, Jimbo, and I'm joined, as usual, by
Dustin.
Jackie. And today we have not one, but two very special friends from the Southbank Theatre Company. I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Amalia Howard.
I'm Lisa Marie Smith.
All right. And ladies, you are here representing a very special woman tonight. As a matter of fact, we have the woman with us. Would you like to tell us who she is and a little bit about what we'll be discussing tonight?
Yeah, so Indiana's first serial killer was a woman named Belle Gunness from LaPorte. And we have a very interesting local connection. Our theater is putting on a play about her, which I happen to have written, which is very fun.
Amazing. So
She took my thunder because this was going to be my Women's History Month topic. So.
you know what, Dustin? I'm feeling dumber and dumber every time we get guests on here.
Hey, who needs Betty Crocker to sponsor us when we got a bank sponsoring this deal?
So I have to ask, what made you choose Belle Gunness as something to write not only an entire show about, but I mean, the history is quite fascinating, but this is kind of a world premiere of this show, is it not?
Yeah, so this is the first time this show will ever be fully staged. Southbank is a company that is interested in history and philosophy and literature and bringing deep thinking to the modern era from those topics. And so they hosted a playwriting competition that focused on Indiana history. And I had actually heard Belle's story from a podcast in the past and had thought, that's a really fun story. That would make a really great play. And so when I saw this contest posted, I decided to go ahead and write it in under 6 months.
That's incredible.
That's insane.
So I have to say, I've been very privileged to read this script, and it's kind of the only piece out there, and it's only because I was like, I absolutely love this. I talked to Marcia, and I was like, I am all about this show. I'm very about this history, and how much research did you have to do to write this? Because it's very factual, extremely factual.
Oh, well, thank you. I probably did at least 2 to 3 months of research. I know I procrastinated for at least 1 month of those 6.
Shoot, we got like 3 weeks to get this ready, and I procrastinated for 2. At least there's a theme.
And then I put together a timeline from online sources. I looked up books about Belle. I read a novel about Belle, and mainly used a book by Harold Schechter, who also worked with LaPorte County historians. So that took a while, and then I was really late and had to sit down and write the thing in about 2 months. So.
That's incredible. So tell us a little bit about the Southbank Theatre Company before we dive in, just so everybody can come and see this world premiere, can learn about Hell's Bell. And if you're not close by, you can get a taste of what could be coming to a theater near you sometime.
Absolutely. So Southbank, like I said, is a theater company that has a mission to produce thought-provoking plays that engage traditional subjects and historical subjects in new ways that inspire us to think and more deeply about our contemporary moment. So that's why they chose to put on this Making History contest with the goal of developing new plays that are engaged in the local character and culture and history of Indiana. So we would love to see anybody nearby come out and see the play. We're currently based out of the Butler University campus at the Shelton Auditorium, and Hell's Bell, the name of the play, which we actually haven't mentioned yet, is going to be running from April 23rd to May 3rd there.
Very cool. So these are not only the women that, the woman who has written it, but two of the women that are actually going to be in this show. Tell us a little bit about who you are in the show and what your character is going to be like.
So again, Lisa Marie Smith, and I play the illustrious Belle. It's been interesting doing some of the research and diving into her, who she is, because there's that historical element of it. And obviously, Amalia has done such a beautiful job with the history of it and getting so much of the accuracy. But when I started diving in, I mean, this is just a rabbit hole of deliciousness, the newspaper articles, and just when you start digging and diving, and I even saw a thing where somebody potentially was working on a music, like doing some sort of musical thing, and then there's these little spoof off, B movies and things, and I have to tell you, I did not even know this story ever existed. I didn't know anything about it. So from that perspective, it's been an interesting journey. And from a research perspective, getting into character, so to speak, the beauty of the way that Amalia has written this is obviously this is a historical person, it's a real person, but there is so much that we don't know. And I have always had I love playing the dark characters. I like playing the characters with some meat to them.
I know who she went as for Halloween now. Let's just say one side of the hair was black, one side of the hair was white, and she liked to drown dogs.
But that's a Disney character. I mean, to be fair.
Allegedly liked to drown dogs.
Make fur coats.
But it's interesting because I think, as an actor, as you're preparing for stuff, I had to laugh because when I read some of the history of Belle and the fact that she had a hog farm, in 2019 through 2022, my family has 250 acres in Tennessee. Uh-huh. And I ran a skid steer and I had a tractor and we had pigs and raised ducks and all the things, and it was out in the middle of nowhere. And to be fair, there's that thing of I have a skid steer, I have a pig, and in thinking of getting into character, it's like, okay, I kind of get it.
Yeah.
My goodness, Lisa, I didn't know we had typecast.
It is
I'm
total
starting to get a little
typecasting.
nervous,
You
Dustin.
Should. You should. I say to people, I'm like, I know how to drive a skid steer, and I had a pig. I know what to do with the body.
So where did Jimbo go? I don't know. He went to shit and the hogs ate him.
It's going to be looking for a new
That's where that
podcast co-host.
I'm pretty sure that's where that started. I'm going to just go ahead and claim it now.
I think the whole point of Women's History Month is to remind you should be a little bit afraid.
Amen.
Yes.
I think every month I'm a little bit scared of women.
Trust me, I'm waiting for the day I wake up and there's a pillow in my face. And it's just, go to sleep, just stop breathing, stop.
Pillow, meat grinder, 6, 7.
Oh, man.
Awesome.
My basement's half dirt, so she could drag me in there, bury me, and cover me with lye, and you'll never see me again.
All right, so that's a little bit about who we have with us today. So in typical Dark Discoveries fashion, we are actually going to cover the historical.
We didn't let Amalia tell us who she is in the show.
Well, I'm not done yet.
Well, come on.
I guess you have to wait
talked
till the end.
to the star.
Contact
right?
the Belle.
I talked to the star.
Yes.
You guys, I'm sure, have seen the movie The Other Guys. You know, Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell. They weren't the stars. They were the guys that did the paperwork. You know, you had The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson jumping off buildings and crashing cars. That's who people want to see.
Right. So we are going to cover the story of Belle Gunness tonight on this episode. But first, let me go to Amalia, because I don't want to get yelled at again. I'm already scared. So, Amalia, who do you play in this?
That is okay. I am both the playwright, and I strong-armed my way into playing Belle's sister, who is also kind of the narrator of the story. She's bringing this story into the modern era to have you give your opinion on it as a jury. So I am playing Nellie Larson.
So, did you say, sure, you can use my script, but I have to be in it? Is that what you did? I know you did.
A little.
And she was kind of like me in high school. It's like, you know what? I don't want to be class president. Let's make me vice president so I can be a part and not have to do nothing.
So you said to the jury, is it safe to make the assumption that this show is written for a trial?
Yes, it is a bit in the setting of a trial, and there is a trial involved.
Very cool. Okay. Well, let's
So
find out
she
why we're on
did
trial.
survive. Oh, well, never mind. I said too much.
Spoiler.
And you thought I was going to be the first one to go.
All right. Well, we'll dive in real quick here. So, ladies, please, as you hear us talking, interject, because we love that and we want to make sure we're as factual as possible. So, Belle Gunness, and I'm going to ask you to pronounce that beautifully again. Her real name was Brynhild.
Paul's daughter, Sturshut.
That's the one. All right. She was, yes.
It is Gunness, not Guinness. Like the
Gunness.
beer.
See, I'm already doing
I always
it.
want to say Gunness or Guinness just
I'm
because
doing it too. So
it just seems easier.
Gunness. Well, and that's why we
Gunness.
do it. Yes. So, all right. So she was born on November 11th of 1859 in rural Norwegian district of Selby, a place defined by isolation, physical labor, and rigid social order. Her family were tenant farmers, meaning that they worked the land and they did not own the land that they lived on. It was under constant economic pressure. The reality that shaped every aspect of daily life from childhood. Belle learned how to survive and required endurance rather than comfort, or obedience rather than expression. She grew up in a physically imposed oh my Lanta, ladies and gentlemen. All right, she grew into a physically imposing young woman, tall, strong, capable of hard labor, traits that set her apart in society that valued women for domestic quietness and submission. Strength, in her case, did not only bring her protection or power, but it simply made her useful. The early lesson that effort does not guarantee safety or fairness would echo throughout her life. One of the most enduring and yet disturbing stories associated with Belle's youth involved a pregnancy and a violent miscarriage. According to later accounts from the people who knew her in Norway, Belle became pregnant as a teenager, allegedly by a wealthy local man. During a public dance, the man reportedly kicked her in the stomach, causing her to lose her child. She was never punished, never publicly disgraced, never meaningfully held accountable. Belle survived the assault, but later witnesses claimed that she was changed by it, less open, less trusting, more inwardly focused. Whether every detail of the story is historically precise matters less than when it reveals about the world that she inhabited. A place where class shielded.
And I'm supposed to be the one to struggle.
I'm dyslexic, all right?
This is why we let Dustin lead off usually.
Yeah. So it's funny. So a place where class shielded.
Perpetrators?
That's the one. All right. And where women absorbed harm quietly and where justice was selective. If this event occurred as described, it would have had reinforced a brutal truth that violence could be inflicted without consequence, and survival depended on adapting rather than appealing to fairness.
So do we know what kind of dance they were doing? Were they doing like the old can, the dun 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 dun?
I think
Did
it's
get kick her in the stomach?
A little late in life for that one.
Do Norwegians dance?
I'm just thinking they were probably square dancing.
Wait a minute, wasn't River Dance Norwegian though? That's Scottish, right?
I'm thinking they're just like jumping up and down to stay warm. That's
probably more
that's
That
what,
could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The old
learn to slide on the
horizontal shuffle.
I mean, the Cupid Shuffle. That's a good stay warm dance.
Well, the Curly Shuffle was a really good dance by the Three Stooges too. So by the time Belle reached her early 20s, Norway offered her little beyond continued labor and limited prospects. In 1881, she joined the wave of Scandinavian immigrants leaving for the United States, a decision that represented not only economic ambition, but psychological escape. Immigration records show her arriving in America and beginning the process of reinvention almost immediately. She shortened her name first to Bella and eventually to Belle, a subtle but telling change that reflected a deliberate shedding of her former identity. In a new country, without community oversight or long memory, she was free to define herself entirely on her own terms. For someone who had learned early that systems did not protect the vulnerable, this anonymity, like Nemo, anonymity. Yeah, thank you. Was not frightening, it was opportunity. What emerges from Belle Gunness' early life is not evidence of innate violence, but evidence of conditioning. She grew up in an environment where suffering was normalized, where authority protected itself, and where survival often required emotional detachment. There is no record of criminal behavior in her Norwegian years, but there is a clear foundation: resilience hardened into self-reliance, injustice internalized rather than confronted, and a growing understanding that power belonged to those who took it, not those who waited for it.
By the time she left Norway, Belle had learned how to endure loss, how to remain silent, and how to start over. Skills that would later make her extraordinarily dangerous once death became profitable. If you go back in the archives, I think you may have met her soulmate.
H.H. Holmes?
H.H. Holmes.
Same era, actually.
Imagine that power couple, but who would kill who first? That's a little scary. And
My
so
money's on Belle.
and they're only like a hour and a half, 2 hours apart. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not geographically that far away.
Yeah, she arrived in Chicago, so
Yeah.
she was there when H.H. Holmes
Just
was
imagine if they
active.
did cross paths.
Did she
That's
attend
just
the World's Fair?
I don't have record of it, but I would assume so.
Ooh.
Well, there is also some story, I believe, that didn't she, when she moved to LaPorte, I, in research, heard that there were mobsters who sent her bodies from Chicago to bury
That's
on her
a-
farm. Is that a myth?
That's a theory.
It's a theory.
Not,
Okay.
It's not a particularly strong theory.
Okay. But that was interesting. I'm like, okay, she got in with
She
some
could have had
mobsters.
connections. Could have had
I
connections.
mean, because LaPorte's only an hour train ride from Chicago.
Easily, yeah.
Who knows? Maybe we just uncovered something big.
Hey.
So when Belle arrived in Chicago in the early 1880s, she entered a city swollen with immigrants, anonymity, and opportunity. Chicago was chaotic, fast-growing, and indifferent. Exactly the kind of place where a person like her could disappear into the crowd or quietly reinvent themselves. In 1884, Belle married a fellow Norwegian immigrant, Mads Sorensen, and outwardly, there was a race car driver with that last name, so I can kind of say it.
He got the nod of approval. That's a first on this podcast.
Their life followed the expected path of a respectable working class couple. They opened a small confectionery business. Imagine, you got some cake or some cookies made by a serial killer. Just, what's that?
She wasn't yet.
Not who knows. What's that special ingredient?
Arsenic.
Strychnine.
rat poison.
Yes.
To their neighbors and their acquaintances, Belle appeared to be conventional, even unremarkable. A solid immigrant wife building a life in a new country. But beneath that service, something darker was beginning to take shape. The first warning signs arrived not as violence, but misfortune. Misfortune that always seemed to benefit Belle financially. Their business and their home were both destroyed by a fire under circumstances that were never fully explained. I was told by a former insurance adjuster, you just put a candle close to the curtain. We pay for stupidity, so if you ever get above your head, you didn't hear it from me. But fires were common in Chicago at the time, and insurance fraud was rarely investigated unless it was blatantly obvious. Belle collected insurance payouts, moved forward, and no one blinked an eye. Then came the deaths of the children. Two of the Sorensen infants died suddenly while still very young. Their deaths were attributed to vague causes like acute indigestion or intestinal illnesses diagnosed frequently that were used in the late 19th century when infants' mortality rate was high and the medical science lacked precision. There were no autopsies, no questions. Grief was assumed, and once Belle received insurance money, again, it was kind of over. You moved on. In an era accustomed to loss and tragedy, it passed quietly when it wore a familiar face,
Children were fragile, and she took in foster children on a regular basis. These may not have been her biological children.
No, she was.
I don't think she had a very maternal figure. I'll say that.
I don't think she had. Well, I'm sure she gave birth to a real child that was her own, but she just didn't seem like the one that would let childbirth slow her down.
I was going to say, I don't think it was ever documented that she had her own children.
Like you said, though, they
she
refer.
Adopted
they
many.
they refer to her adopting, and they insinuate like they're her kids, but
It's possible, but there's no record.
I don't see her slowing down for that. That is too much to take on for the crime.
So when she was, I don't want to say adopting, when she was going through this, was the state paying her money to take care of the kids?
In fact, they were.
I knew they were.
That's a major cause for a lot of these.
That's a racket as old as time.
Well, the most striking death came in the 1900s when Mad Sorensen died suddenly, officially from heart failure. But what made his death remarkable was not the diagnosis, but the timing. He died on the only day that two separate life insurance policies overlapped, allowing Beth to collect both.
Double dip.
The coincidence was extraordinary, but coincidences still carry weight in a world without forensic toxicology or standardized death investigations. Mads was buried, and Belle mourned publicly. Once again, death translated into financial stability. She walked away with a sum that, adjusted for inflation, would amount to a substantial fortune today. Taken individually, each accident could be explained away. Fires happened, children died, men had heart attacks. But together, they form a very clear pattern in Belle Gunness' life. Catastrophe followed by profit, grief followed by opportunity. And what is unsettling is not the violence itself, but how calmly it fit into her trajectory. There was no visible panic, no downward spiral, no recklessness. Instead, each loss elevated her position. Belle was learning something crucial in these years. Death did not bring scrutiny when it appeared normal. And when framed correctly, it could solve problems rather than create them.
She also cut off anyone who was suspicious of her. In fact, her own sister questioned some of Belle's actions, and they became estranged before she moved to LaPorte.
But how many coincidences can one person have before they become suspicious, right?
And
I say that every day at work, and nobody has that bad of luck.
even though insurance wasn't, I guess, as big of a deal in quote, that baffles me that wasn't explored more. Two insurance policies,
And the other thing that I would have to say is, was she taking these insurance policies out in the same state? Were they other locations? It's harder to track because you got to think, we still have trouble communicating things across the nation today. However, 100 years ago, totally different story. They may not have even known other companies existed at this point.
I'm sure she had aliases that she used, so it wasn't always her name on it, given that her whole name is an alias. But it was common in the early to late 1800s, early 1900s that they would change your name. You'd come, through Ellis Island. They made it more American. If it was a big, complicated name, it gets chopped up into something smaller. So that may be why you start going by, Bella or Belle versus what her real name is, because it's not even remotely close.
So did you actually have the copy of where she signed the book?
No.
I mean, I have my great-great-great-grandparents. When they came over on Ellis Island, I have the autographs of their names. So
That's incredible.
I know. Yeah, my grandma, she went way, way back. So I thought it was pretty cool. But I didn't know, if you can, the Historical Society or something, if you can actually, have them, with the Freedom of Information Act, have them send you a copy of her or her family signing the ledger.
The LaPorte County Historical Society did not have that that I know of, but maybe no one has looked into it.
Right. So psychologically, this period marks a turning point. If Belle had once learned in Norway that injustice went unpunished, Chicago taught her something even more dangerous, that systems could be manipulated quietly and repeatedly. Insurance companies paid out. Doctors signed death certificates. Neighbors accepted explanations. The state did not intervene. By the time she left Chicago, Belle had not only survived loss, she had been rewarded for it. And perhaps most importantly, she had learned that when tragedy struck those closest to her, suspicion never lingered long enough to stop her from moving on. When Belle packed up her life and relocated to Indiana shortly after Mads Sorensen's death, she did not do so as a grieving widow struggling to survive. She left Chicago as a woman with money, experience, and a growing understanding of how easily death could be made to look like fate. What followed would no longer be accidental, it would be intentional. Now, let me ask you a question, ladies, not Dustin. How much money is too much money, right? Right? I mean, do you think once you reached a certain point, you would be like, okay, I got enough. I can go anywhere I want, retire.
More money, more problems, buddy.
Exactly. That's what we're finding out.
So Chicago is already riddled with organized crime. The late 1800s, early 1900s. To survive in that environment, you got to pay people off. So I'm sure there was somebody on the take that she had to pay. It's like Dillinger and them. They robbed a bunch of banks, robbed a bunch of money. That money goes fast, and you're paying for protection. You're having people hide you. I mean, that money, you have to go do another job to get more money. So
you're basically saying that Belle was in the mob. So she moonlighted as a mobster.
She had to pay people off. I'm sure money probably, switched hands with doctors. Hey, speed this up. Here's some money. Will you take care of this? Little
she
slide.
was just really fortunate.
It could be.
There's hundreds of doctors in Chicago. She didn't have to go to the same doctor. Her children probably didn't have the same pediatrician. Every time she got some.
Yeah, it's just one of those. I mean, I don't know. It's crime.
Well, and but the thing is, asking that question of how much is too much, coming from, she came here from Norway essentially alone, running from something. Right. And whether the story about the dance and the abuse and whatever, whether that's true or not, she clearly was running from something, also running to something. And what I think is interesting is, when you travel and you don't speak the language from one country to another, you adopt a completely different personality based on that new language that you're speaking. The way that I speak, as English as my first language, when I went and toured Germany, I speak a little German, but my whole personality was completely different speaking that different language. And all of that to say, when she came here, there's survival. I mean, so when she is potentially, and not excusing any of it, but she is taking care of herself. She's looking out for number one by any means necessary, right, wrong, or indifferent. She's going to make sure that she can survive.
Now I see how she got the part.
Yeah. I was just saying, I said, man, here we go.
Give me a couple million, I'm fine. I'll find a way to make it. A couple million after taxes, I'll figure it out. That's all I need.
There's something to be said for psychological studies of serial killers and sociopaths, psychopaths, that they just cannot be satiated. They always want something else. And I do see that pattern in Belle's life. She looked to, she complained about like wanting to adopt children. She complained about the size of the house. She wanted a better standing in society. She wanted more money. There's always a bottomless pit inside her.
Yeah, and I think it was a way to, which we'll probably get into this a little bit later, but it was like a middle finger to everybody. Like, I'm going to get through this. Like, I've suffered. I'm going to get mine. I don't care how I get it. You know, just when that all happened in Norway, you know, losing a child, I think it really, the whole process, it flipped who she was, and it just become survival at its core is just what it become.
The biggest problem that I had with it is, if this happened in Norway and there was no repercussions, she learned that she had no repercussions for
if there's money and power, if it's somebody of money and power, and that's kind of allegedly who the baby daddy was.
She could do what she needed to do and take care of herself, and she was fine because there was no repercussions done for her. So why would it be for anyone else? Yeah, I could see that.
It gets ingrained.
So by the time Belle arrived in LaPorte, Indiana in 1901, she was no longer merely surviving tragedy, she was capitalizing on it. With the insurance money from Mads Sorensen's death, she purchased a large farm on the outskirts of town, a place that offered what Chicago never could: privacy, distance, and control. The farm sat far enough from neighbors to discourage casual observation, but close enough to town to appear respectable. Belle presented herself as a hardworking widow with children, someone deserving of sympathy rather than scrutiny. In reality, the property gave her space, literal and psychological, to operate without interference.
So soon after settling in LaPorte, Belle married Peter Gunness, a fellow Norwegian immigrant and widower who happened to own a butcher shop. The marriage appeared practical rather than romantic, and within weeks of moving in with Belle's in her farmhouse, Peter's role in her life seemed to diminish. According to later testimony, he complained privately to relatives that Belle was domineering, dismissive, and increasingly hostile. He reportedly told family members he feared for his safety, even stating that Belle had threatened him. And keep in mind, Belle was a big woman, so I would probably have took her threat seriously as well. She wore the pants, I'm pretty sure. He maybe taught her some tricks of the trade of butchering, but she wore the pants.
Well, and they refer to Belle as homely, but also she was sometimes quoted as 250, sometimes quoted over 300 pounds. She was an ox of a woman.
Big woman.
She was strong. She could hold her own.
I'm going to say she was a good cook.
I'll bet you she used real butter.
Those warnings would later haunt the investigation, but at the time, they carried very little weight, unlike Belle, who carried a lot of weight. I'm not fat shaming. I'm a large person, so I'm going to take some stabs at some other large people.
Stabs.
She's
nice.
not.
Especially a murderer.
She's not a hero
Alleged
by
murder.
no means. So she's game to make fun of. Men complaining about their wives not being taken seriously, especially when the wife was a grieving mother managing a farm. Like, of course, she's not a bad person. She's grieving, and she has this farm to run. Less than a year into her marriage, guess what happened? Peter died under circumstances so improbable, they should have ended the story immediately. Dramatic. I was going to add the dramatic pause, but...
Oopsie.
Belle claimed that while she was in the kitchen, a heavy meat grinder fell from a high shelf and crushed Peter's skull as he bent over. The explanation strained credibility. The grinder was extremely heavy, awkwardly stored, and unlikely to fall without assistance. And why would it be on the top shelf? Unless you're planning.
I mean, my great grandma used to store all kinds of contraptions up there on the top shelf. They put them where they could because there wasn't enough.
Yeah, I guess counter space and cabinets weren't a big thing.
Yeah, but I'm picturing meat grinder. They attach to the cat. They attach.
Yeah, it's all manual.
Not all of them.
Oh.
Because you have the
It's
ones
probably heavy
you
enough
have the
that it has
ones
a
that you
base
put drop the meat in at the top and you grind it this way. It doesn't always attach to the thing. It was just some of them just had a base and they had the thing that came
She is
out.
right though. Like Hoosier cabinets actually had an attachment that would go on almost like a vise, and you could take them on and off. Having said that, that could have very well been what it was, and just taken off and put up there. But yeah, they actually had like a vise-like piece that there was that, and then there was a bread part to it, and then they had a piece
sifter
for sifting
and,
grain, and if something like that, I could definitely see those attachments being readily used. Plus, they're on a farm, so they're grinding their own meat and doing things that way.
Yeah, my only knowledge of actual meat grinding is was it In Living Color with fireman
Fire Marshal Bill?
Fire Marshal Bill.
Let me show you something.
Let me show you something. Yes, that's.
So why would a butcher need to have a meat grinder at his house if he can just grind the meat at work and bring it home?
What do you think women did in 1901
Dustin,
when they
yeah, but
wanted
he's
to
running
make
a butcher
sausage?
shop.
If you go missing tonight,
I mean,
I'm not
seriously.
eating a steak at this place.
I'm sure he had a butcher shop if he was a butcher.
Not
Unless
necessarily.
So you
unless he
expect them
gave
at
it
their
up.
farm to take
Whoa.
all of the meat and tote it to the butcher shop
Yeah,
in
I'm gonna get-
town.
Wait a minute.
I'm
I'm
going to
right
get
there.
paid while I'm butchering my
You
meat.
heard my father tell the story of picking up my mother on their first date.
Yeah, but-
and my grandpa had a giant cow in the front yard.
I
and
would
he
have done it while I was at
hacking it
work
up.
if it was me.
yeah, people
get
do what
paid
they
on
can.
company
I don't
time.
think he was a butcher.
No.
I did not find any.
'Kay, so-
I've never found a reference that says he was a butcher. I think he was a farmer.
No, okay, maybe
Yeah,
took some
Dustin.
creative
Plus, he was
liberty.
from Norway. so I'm
Creative liberty.
assuming-
I was going to say, let's ask
Yeah.
the resident historian here before
Yeah,
time.
see, he got this.
You
Now
got
you're just
Belle
shooting
worked
me
up
down.
over here. You got Jackie worked up about her parents.
That's right.
You're
I was like,
over there.
I know people do this.
Here I'm going on a tangent. I just get shot down. And you're supposed to agree with me. So the coroner initially suspected murder, noting that blunt force trauma inconsistent with the accident. But Belle, she wept. She hosted the investigators and explained calmly and repeatedly. Ultimately, the death was ruled accidental. Belle inherited property, assets, and total control. The following depended the pattern in a way that was impossible to ignore. Peter's infant daughter from his previous marriage died while in Belle's care, officially from, how do you pronounce it?
Colitis.
Colitis. Belle, once again, would collect insurance money.
Neighbors noticed that children in Belle's household seemed unusually fragile. That illness followed her presence, yet suspicion never turned into action. Infant death was common. Belle would persevere. She was also very persuasive. And perhaps the most importantly, there was no obvious motive, only grief and misfortune. This period reveals a crucial psychological escalation. In Chicago, death had rewarded Belle passively, but in Indiana, death began responding to her needs. Peter's death removed a man who had become fearful and inconvenient. The child's death removed responsibility. Each loss simplified Belle's life while strengthening her independence. The farm expanded. Belle hired help. She became known as a capable, efficient woman, not warm, but competent. People respected her distance because it looked like a strength. But forensic hindsight paints a chilling picture. The meat grinder story does not align with the physics or the injury pattern described in the coroner's early notes. Modern investigators would almost certainly classify Peter's death as a homicide. But at the turn of the century, forensic science relied heavily on testimony, demeanor, and soul expectation.
Social.
That's the one. All right. Belle understood this
Instinctively.
Why did you know I'm dyslexic? What the heck? All right. All right.
He wrote this like a beautiful high school essay. It's a very
Yes.
meaningful piece.
I was going to say, these are 50 cent to $2 words
Yeah.
that are in here. These
she's
are
an English
beautiful.
teacher.
I teach 12th grade English, so yes, well done.
She's gonna call me on my bullshit here in a minute.
Oh my goodness. I'll be nice for a minute, but only because I'm still struggling to read. All right, here we go. So, yes, modern investigators would almost certainly classify Peter's death as a homicide. But at the turn of the century, forensic science relied heavily on testimony, demeanor, and social expectation. Belle understood this instinctively. Thank you. She cried when required. She stayed composed when it mattered. She never overplayed emotion. But by the time Peter Gunness was buried, Belle stood alone again, wealthier, freer, and now in possession of a secluded property where oversight was minimal. The deaths around her were no longer clustered accidents. They were steps. And with each step, Belle learned that authority could be negotiated, suspicion could be managed, and death, when framed correctly, could be made to look like destiny.
Now, Amalia, do you have a timeline from when Belle married Mads and then that death happened and then Peter and then, because I'm just curious of the timing here.
And I was wanting to know the body count so far.
We are
Allegedly.
already in unknown territory.
Right.
Somewhere, probably count them on your fingers, number of dead children, dead husband number 1, dead husband number 2, at the very least.
So, am I correct? Was Mads the one that she actually was affectionate to? There was one husband that she actually genuinely had a relationship with.
I think that's open to interpretation, but Belle spent 10 years married to Mads, or over 10 years. And so she saw this as her escape from Norway. She was clearly somewhat content for a time. And she certainly showed affection to many people, as we will find out as we continue in this story.
And here I am, like, afraid if my wife ever left me, I'd be single for the rest of my life. This woman not only was big,
She was
and
rich.
mean and rich, she was ugly.
She pulled in a lot of suitors.
Even
That's
for the
open up to
time.
interpretation there, Dustin.
But like I said, women have it easier than men. I think we got to fight for everything we can
Well,
get.
what's interesting though is when we dive in, I know we probably will, but when we look at the ads that she placed, she never really mentions her appearance.
I wouldn't either.
Does she mention her cooking?
She does. She mentions her cooking. She mentions the farm. So I will also say this. I mean, dudes aren't super choosy. It kind of seems like.
Not when you
Let
have-
let's be honest. You show us a little skin, we're in love.
You have
Whether
a 40
it's a chicken or
You have a
Preferably
gorgeous
not.
48-acre farm. You're independently wealthy.
And the dollar signs pop into your eyes.
And these are all Norwegian men who want to eat something from the old country, and she is constantly doing.
Many of them are
offering that.
widowed as well because she would adopt their children. So it was instant family, just add me when they showed up.
And like I said, if they're widowed, it gives them a piece of home. So it gives them something, the opportunity in their mind to give them the stability that they're looking for. It reminds them of home.
Yep.
So it takes away some of that.
It has some appeal.
So they think.
But to give an answer for you, Lisa, she married Mads in 1884. Around, let's see, the candy shop they opened in 1894, so that was a solid 10 years after the marriage. They had some children pass away in the later 1890s. 1893 was the World's Fair, so we can assume she attended, perhaps with her
Everybody
adopted
did.
children. And then 1900 in July was the suspicious death of her first husband, Mads. She moves to LaPorte in 1901 and remarries in April 1902.
So she was born in 1859.
Yes.
So she was 40 something.
43?
I'm an English teacher, not a math
I'm
teacher.
She was midlife, let's say.
I found a math
that's-
error.
that's-
Oh, she was definitely middle aged. Probably a little over middle aged for the time.
So it's again thinking about midlife crisis, all of those things. If life was so hunky dory with being married to Mads, and then it's just interesting.
My midlife crisis is like a race car, which that was my 20s. I didn't expect to make it till 40 here in May. So
Well, and here's the
not
thing.
to kill people.
Here's the thing that kind of gets me too. She was married to Mads for 10 years. what set her off to this kind of escalation in that short of amount of time, because she just starts blowing through these guys. Like,
He left the toilet seat up again, is what I'm saying.
I mean, like,
I don't know. but
middle-age rage is real, guys. The older I get,
I'm going to
"Whew."
say something in that
There.
just had to trigger the past. Don't know what personally. I didn't really see that, but something. Either you suppressed the memory long enough and it came back to the surface,
Or was menopause coming on?
or something happened.
No, seriously.
No, that actually,
Serious.
that is very.
I know it's true. I'm married for 27 years now. I know.
Yeah. Well, and to, honestly, to speak to that, it's, not discounting menopause, but premenopause is
Can last forever.
Forever leading up to. And that,
Well aware.
yeah.
Well aware.
So if you're married for 27 and you're dealing with it already, I've been with my wife for going on 22.
Oh, buckle up, fellas. It's just going to get better.
Mine's still in pre.
So
Yeah.
just make sure that we
Buckle
put a
up,
bed.
Buttercup.
Let's
Do you
just make
guys
sure we
have
put a bed.
meat grinders at your house? I would get rid of any meat grinder.
That's why I go to McDonald's when she asks. So Lisa has stated about some of the advertisements and stuff, and we're lucky enough to have the lady that will be playing Belle in the theatrical production and her sister over here. So if they want to take turns reading the ads, or if Belle wants to read the ads, when we get to it, whoever's got the paragraph will pause and let you read that. So here we go. So the stage was now set for something far more ambitious. Belle no longer needed marriage for companionship or security. She needed it for supply, and soon she would begin looking for men not to share her life, but to disappear into it.
I guess if you have to feed hogs, a human's free, where food costs money. So she wasn't going to spend a dime. Because you know what Belle Gunness did? The same thing H.H. Holmes did.
Didn't pay for
Didn't
nothing.
pay for shit.
So by 1904, Belle Gunness had achieved something rare for a woman of her time: financial independence, property ownership, and near total control over her environment. She no longer needed marriage for survival, companionship, or social legitimacy. What she needed now was capital, and she had learned that men, particularly lonely immigrant men, were a renewable resource. Rather than waiting for chance encounters, Belle began actively recruiting her victims using the most effective tool available to her: TikTok and Tinder. No, I'm kidding. It is the written word. Can you imagine if she would have had a TikTok account or
Could you
Tinder?
imagine the
Swipe
Tinder?
right. Swipe right. Swipe right.
She
The
catfished with her
Craigslist killer.
words, let alone a picture.
I tell you what, every filter in the book would have been on her. Woo.
No, so she had the written word, so newspapers, telegrams, all that. So she placed personal advertisements in Norwegian language newspapers across the Midwest, knowing exactly who would read them: men who were culturally isolated, emotionally vulnerable, and accustomed to trusting women from their homeland. One of her most famous advertisements read,
Comely widow who owns large farm wishes to make acquaintance of gentlemen equally well provided, with view of joining fortunes. Doesn't that just get your heart going pitter-patter, fellas?
I'm just I'm sitting here. I'm like, it's the early 1900s. Granted, women can't vote, and they're most of them are facing a lot of adversity. Like, you do have some madams that ran some establishments that had some type of power, but it's so odd for the time frame to have this much control with a woman in the time frame that it was. Because you would think that, they would have found a way. Oh, you can't own that land. You'd have thought they would have found some way to swindle her just because of the time.
when it's already paid off, they can't say much.
I bet, but you get somebody in there but not that she would let them stop her. Like, she'd kill them too. But
What's that, a hog farm? Knock, and they're in the pig pen.
It just seems like when you're trying to, like, if this was to happen today, but we're looking at it 120 years ago, it was such a different landscape, and that's, I think, what makes this so intriguing. Like, this is a case that there's not a lot of podcasts out there on this, and there really should be a lot more information because it's a fascinating case. It really is.
I mean, the other thing, though, too, is, you think about it, for someone who's a sociopath, for someone who is, that this is what they are doing and this is their life. The way that I have to imagine the way she presents herself to the local community isn't going to be this swaggering 5'9" bestiality of a woman. It's going to be a very demure, as well as she can. I've read, just some talk that, when she would go into town, she would be dressed very feminine and with, the cinched waist and all of that. But on the farm, she would be swaggering around in men's clothes. And oftentimes they thought that it was a man. Yeah.
She would take her kids to church. She wanted to be a pillar of society. That's what she said. And that the whole thing about the widowhood, being a widow is one of the only ways to have power back then. That maybe there was no other reason. Maybe poor Maud's was perfectly nice to her, and she was just like, I just need to be a widow so I can do what I want with my life.
It's just like I said, for the time, it to me it just adds a lot more questions to the whole story. There's just for the time frame, it's like I said, it's interesting. The phrasing was deliberate and revealing. Belle did not just advertise romance or passion; she advertised stability, mutual benefits, and assets. The phrase joining fortunes signaled a business arrangement such as a marriage. This alone filtered men without means and attracted those who believed they were entering a practical adult partnership. The ad promised safety, not excitement, a powerful lure for men who had spent years alone. When men responded, Belle's letters followed a consistent emotional arc. She opened with warmth, quickly introduced responsibility, then narrowed the reader's words until she was at the center. In one letter, she would write,
I'm lonely here and desire a good, honest man to help me with the farm and be a father to my children.
This line did two things at once. It framed Belle as vulnerable while positioning the man as a necessity. Men as
Necessary there, Dustin.
Okay.
Necessary. That means she needed them.
I gave you guys enough crap today. I'm going to mess something up. He was not merely visiting. He was needed. So he's going to go there to stay. Like his eyes are, I think they're seeing either hearts or dollar signs or dollar-signed hearts. I don't know. But I'm sure they're beating feet to get to the train to get to LaPorte, Indiana. But like I said, then came the pivot forward, the financial transparency. This presented as a practicality rather than a demand.
It would be best if you could turn your property into cash before coming, as investments here can be handled more conveniently.
Man, look at her just conning. Like, hey, don't bring your stuff, bring money.
Cash is king.
This was not coercion. It was advice. Maternal, sensible, almost protective. Belle never threatened and never pressured. She simply made a logical path obvious. And finally, she ensured isolation.
Correspondents are requested not to tell anyone of this arrangement, as it might cause unnecessary gossip.
I just thought of something. This is where Walt Disney got Belle from Beauty and the Beast.
I just want to know what the train station looked like after all these people came flooding into LaPorte. Like, I'm sure the town built a nice little train station to accommodate all these Norwegian visitors.
Yeah, but did she have more than one suitor come at the same time?
No.
Well, I also, just imagining the post office.
Oh, she had a
The
good
local post
relationship
office.
with her postman.
It had
I
to
bet
have.
she did.
Yeah, it had to have, because the
It's
comings
recorded.
and goings of the letters, and people talk in small town Hoosierville, Indiana. It's just fascinating, the comings and goings.
I'm sure 5 or 10 different letters coming in from different people.
And she could probably pick which one she wanted. Which one had the most money? Which one was the better looking?
I wonder if they.
Which one had the most kids, right?
Preferably no children.
Can you have insurance on them with me as the beneficiary before you get here?
Did she request photos prior to meeting?
Not that I know of. I don't think photography was something you could do on a whim at the time. It was more a special occasion.
Yeah.
She had portraits done with her children on big occasions of her engagement, of her time when she was about to move to LaPorte, when she became this established woman in LaPorte. And I don't think getting prints were as easy as going to CVS.
Well, like they'd have
Online.
wouldn't they have to like pin your face back to where you couldn't change the expression? Like pull it back
Pin
tight
your
to
face
where.
back.
Listen, this isn't a death photo.
No, like-
Are you talking about when they just couldn't smile?
Well, they had to like keep their face.
Look at this picture right
same
here on this
for so
bag,
long.
Dustin.
It's
Look at
because
this.
they had to sit
Look.
still.
Yeah.
They literally had to sit still for like 10 minutes
Yeah,
in
to take
order
the
for
picture.
it to.
And they said they would take stuff to like tighten their face to where it would keep them from moving.
Do you dream some of this stuff
and make
up?
some of the expression? I watch
You're
a lot
thinking
of
of the
stuff.
funeral
Yeah, the
photography
death
where they would
photos.
tie them back.
I
Yeah,
still
you're
think
thinking of
they.
the
I
funeral.
still
I
think
think-
that they tighten the face. So
I think that might be a little before this
it
time.
could have been. Like I said, it just may be.
Because then how would
Going
she
back
have a
too far.
picture with a toddler
Right.
that's clearly
Yeah.
intelligible?
I
That
just
kid
know
didn't
they
hold
had to
still.
like stay
Think,
still
Dustin,
for like
think.
10 minutes.
Use your man
At
brain
the first,
so you're
in
needed.
the very first cameras, you are correct.
Okay, so I'm just thinking maybe a little too far. I figured that went into the
Wild
20s.
Wild West.
Well,
Well, with this sentence of the correspondents are requested not to tell anyone of this arrangement, Belle erased witnesses before the crime even occurred. By the time a man boarded a train to LaPorte, he had already severed social ties, liquidated his assets, and psychologically committed to a future that only existed in Belle's letters. When the man arrived, neighbors saw him briefly, always well dressed, often carrying money or valuables, but they never stayed long. Belle explained that their disappearances, casually, incompatibly, sudden business opportunities, a desire to move west. Her explanations were mundane, that's often the most effective disguise. Meanwhile, the farm itself began to change. Belle expanded her pig pens. She dug frequently. She purchased large quantities of quicklime. At this time, those were not red flags. They were normal farm activities, and in hindsight, they read like preparation.
but if you take duct tape and rope and one other object at Walmart and check out
KY jelly.
you're getting flagged.
It's a good time, right? Is that what you're saying?
She also lied that these were all just her cousins coming to visit. Obviously, they were Norwegian. How could they not be?
We're all related.
Yeah, that's a little creepy. Psychologically, this period revealed Belle at her most controlled. She was not acting out of rage or in desperation. She was methodical, patient, and emotionally restrained. Her letters showed no cruelty, no malice, no threats. Instead, they reveal something colder, an understanding for the human need and how to structure dependency. Belle did not dominate through force. She guided men gently into situations where resistance never occurred.
Okay, before we go on, I have a question.
No, Jimbo, I'm not an expert, obviously, on photography. I got the wrong. I was 50 years too late.
If Belle had a theme song, what theme song are you giving her? Jackie.
Oh, don't put me in the spot
Okay,
yet.
Dustin.
Hang on.
She's a man eater.
I was just thinking Hell's Bells. I was just trying to figure out how to twist the AC/DC song into, murdering people.
Come back to me.
What's the one? One-eyed, one
Purple
horn
people
flying,
eater.
purple people eater.
Ooh,
Yeah.
witchy woman.
Oh, that's a good one.
I'm thinking, you don't want me singing, though, so...
How about the theme song from Titanic, Near, Far, Wherever You Are, right? So her heart's going to go on. All right, so you guys can think about that. I just thought I'd throw something fun out there because this gets depressing.
go ahead and send us an email. What song would your choice be? darkdiscoveryspot@gmail.com.
You like how you plug that every time.
We
Okay.
might use it in the soundtrack of the show.
Ooh, yeah, if you're good enough.
Alex Stiff, you listening? He could write one, right?
He probably could. He'd
Right.
at least give you a good guitar solo.
Forensically, this phase is where the murders almost certainly escalated in frequency. Though exact methods remain speculative, later discoveries suggest poisoning or blunt force trauma followed by dismemberment, burning, or burial with lime. The lack of contemporary forensic science worked entirely in Belle's favor. Missing persons were rarely traced across state lines. Immigrant men with no close family were especially unlikely to be searched for. It's kind of like when a serial killer goes after a prostitute, or the cops aren't really going to care.
I think the same thing. Immigrants, you're hoping that the records and they're not a focus at the time, that they're going to be somebody nobody misses.
Right. Belle understood, consciously or intuitively, that disappearance itself could be weaponized. By the time Belle's letters stopped, dozens of men had passed through her life without leaving a trace. She had transformed courtship into infrastructure and loneliness into leverage. This was no longer a woman reacting to opportunity. This was a system operating at full efficiency, hidden behind politeness, routine, and ink on paper.
I'm going to give 2 songs for the listeners because I had time to think.
He's got ADHD, ladies.
2 bands nobody's ever heard of listening to this unless they were interviewed on this show. Sugar-Coated Cyanide by the Fill-Ins, which is Alex's band, and a song called Cold Blooded by the band The Future Babes. Not like death, but just makes you think of somebody that's just cold and evil.
Well, now that you got it, I got mine. Girls just want to have fun. And oops, I did it again.
There we go. That's the response that we need.
What about Freak Me by Silk, right?
I was thinking maybe I'm Just a Girl by Gwen Stefani, or No Doubt, but
I was born in a small town.
oops, I did it.
Okay, back on track,
All
Dustin.
right.
Sorry, my bad.
Sorry.
He has to land the plane sometimes.
I did not
He stays up here in
get-
circles.
I did not get singing lessons as a child, so I'm sorry.
Or an adult.
Oh, you know what else would be good? Thank you for being a friend.
See, we have fun. We're all about having fun, and it's not at my expense.
And now
tonight.
we're sorry, Marcia. You're probably already regretting your decision to come on this.
No,
come on the podcast.
Hell's Bell is a true crime dark comedy.
Oh,
so we will be
wow.
laughing during this show.
you can't like tell the story in a courtroom setting and not like, you got to keep the people on the edge of their seat. You can't be
with things like this, it is so. It's so diabolical. It's so evil.
ridiculous.
You have to.
Can we please cast
Find
Dustin
the
as a
humor.
juror, just up there fiddling or dropping
guys-
stuff or
They
something?
didn't have cell phones, so I'm screwed.
You guys
They didn't have
better
smart
beards.
glasses.
The ridiculousness of this, she had whole rooms in her 13-room farmhouse full of men's trunks and coats and clothes and boots, and people knew about this, and they were just like, her cousins leave their stuff with her. Like,
I want to know what the police force was in LaPorte in 1900. There couldn't be more than one cop for like
Literally.
3
Barney
counties.
Fife.
Barney Fife with the one bullet in
Yep.
his pocket.
Yep.
So we
name was-
got Fort Wayne. We have a constable there. We got some people in Chicago, and we're thinking about a college in South Bend. So we're going to have a campus security officer.
yeah, the
That's probably
sheriff's
about it.
name was Albert Schmutzer, and he was about 25. So
He ain't even hit puberty yet. And they got him as a cop.
I saw a picture of him for the first time last weekend, and I was like, "This is the guy."
Would he have made a good suitor for her?
I mean, he wasn't bad looking. But
He didn't have a
young.
he didn't have a life
that's-
insurance policy.
Next episode is Belle Gunness the Cougar.
Oh,
Or
we're
Belle
about to learn
Belle
about
Gunness,
that.
the MILF.
We're about to learn all about that. We're about to get to Ray Lamphere. So
I'm maybe going to lose my lunch. And
second
yet,
lunch.
no system runs forever without friction. The first cracks would not come from law enforcement, but within Belle's own household, in the form of a vital farmhand who knew too much, and a woman who, for the first time, began planning not just murder, but potentially escape. By 1907, Belle Gunness, I always want to say Guinness, I'm sorry.
it's not a
Gunness's
beer, guys.
farm was no longer a place of residence or work. It had become a physical center of her operation. Men come and went. Like she said, they left trunks behind and boots. And how you going to go to work without your boots? Come on. It's okay. Like, she's rich. Those people can afford to buy a new pair of shoes.
They all went to California where it's warm.
You don't need, you got flip-flops. It's okay.
So I have a question. Her farm, how big is it? Did she need to have farm hands? Or did she do it all herself? Or is that what these guys were coming to help do?
48 acres was the original size. It's possible. I think she also purchased more land later on as she gained wealth from nefarious means. But yeah, I drove around it, and it's pretty significant. And there's like wetlands as well as farming area and space for the hogs, and a pond conveniently located behind the house.
So do we know if
50
she had
acres,
farm
that's-
hands?
Yes, she started out inviting farm hands. These were suitors, but she started out with the farm hands.
At any point, did you learn by chance, like the insurance companies? Was she working with the same ones? Was she going through anything she could find, or is that still kind
I'm
of unknown?
sure these companies didn't make it out of the Great Depression, so those records are probably lost to time.
Probably.
I did not find any interesting information on that in my research.
So, like we said, men came and gone. The land was constantly disturbed, yet nothing about the property appeared overtly criminal. What did change was the presence of Ray. How do you, Lamphere?
Lamphere.
I hear this stuff, but it doesn't stick in my head. A hired farmhand whose role in Belle's life would prove to be catastrophic. Ray was emotionally unstable, deeply attached to Belle, and increasingly resentful of the men who arrived courting her. Gosh, he must have got kicked in the head by a horse.
Well, have you seen the picture of him?
I haven't.
He looks like he's been kicked in the head.
So they're a match made in heaven.
They are.
Well,
It's that.
Was he
like,
cross-eyed?
Boris
you would
and
be after a horse
Natasha.
kick you.
It's like that Boris and Natasha, very disparate. Like he was stringy, skinny, limp little mustache, big buggy eyes. Like, but
I don't
he
like the way
liked
she
her.
looked at me when she said big buggy eyes.
But Boris and Natasha, they loved each other.
There's an argument to be made that Ray and Belle, they were lovers. They were hanging out, and
How can we be lovers?
It sounds like only when it was convenient for Belle. Like
of course.
Like it wasn't.
Isn't that the way it is with
she
all
had
women?
needs, Dustin.
as Anita Rose, which I don't know how. I don't know how you'd muster through that.
Anita Rose, is that what?
I don't know. Like
Well,
I
she
would
lived on
I would become
farms.
celibate at that point. But out of the fear of my life, I guess whatever happens happens. Belle exploited this devotion, and when it suited her and rejected it when it did not. So she was looking for her opportunities. This created a volatile dynamic that neighbors would begin to notice. Witnesses later described Lamphere as jealous, erratic, and obsessed. Belle.
He does have bug eyes.
He looks like
We gotta put a picture
he
of him
looks
on.
about like Wyatt
Earp is what I was getting ready to say.
with a lazy eye. If Wyatt Earp got kicked by a mule,
I love how it just went silent when I pulled up that photo.
You threw him off guard.
Now you see why Belle was so annoyed with him.
Was she taller than him?
I don't know.
I'm sure.
I know she was heavier.
She was 5'8".
How tall are Norwegian men?
I mean, so Belle was 5'8". Norwegian men were probably very slightly taller than that at the time, but that's huge
That's a
for a
tall
woman,
woman.
in
Yeah.
the 1900s. Like,
Yeah,
Tall now. Yeah.
I didn't know if the Nordic people were known to be excessively tall or about that size. But
all,
she's still.
all of you ladies are over 5'8", right?
No.
Oh,
No, I'm 5'4".
I'm 5'6".
are you really?
5'5", we have them all covered.
Oh, I guess I was sitting down when they all walked in.
I was supposed to marry a 6 foot tall woman, and mine's like 5'3". So
Did you get your money back from that psychic?
yeah,
Miss Claudia.
no more palm
Miss
readings
Claudia.
for me. I knew when you go to the
Miss
psychic
Cleo.
and they have a brand new car outside, a nice sports car, that they're scamming people because nobody's gonna
You needed to see that to make the determination not to go to a society. Just
No more tarot card reading for me.
question.
Didn't you ever watch Pee-wee's Big Adventure? The Alamo in the basement.
I just. Belle, by contrast, appeared composed and increasingly fearful, or at least she performed fear convincingly. She began telling neighbors that Lamphere threatened her, that she worried for her safety, and that he had become unpredictable. I wonder if there was a whiskey still on site there for him to fall in love with her. There's got to be an explanation. This narrative severed multiple purposes. It distanced her from him socially. It established a future suspect in the minds of others, and reframed her growing paranoia as a reasonable concern. Whether Belle genuinely feared Lamphere or was simply laying the groundwork remains unclear. But the timing is telling. This was the first moment in her life where she openly suggested someone may harm her. She's just setting the stage. That's my opinion.
Well, at the time, Belle's behavior grew more erratic. She became abrupt with neighbors, less interested in appearances, more focused on efficiency. Men were arriving with increasing frequency, sometimes only weeks apart. Some were seen carrying large sums of money, others brought trunks that were never seen again, while Belle's explanations grew thinner. A few relatives of the missing men wrote letters asking them. Letters Belle ignored and answered vaguely. The walls of isolation that she had built were still strong, but they were no longer invisible. When they came digging, neighbors later testified that Belle was constantly turning soil over on the property, sometimes late at night, sometimes in areas that made little agricultural sense. She purchased large quantities of quicklime, a substance known even then to accelerate decomposition and neutralize odor. On its own, this meant nothing. Combined with the disappearances, secrecy, and Lamphere's presence, it created unease. Not enough to prompt police attention, but enough to be remembered.
You know, I really hope there was a Goodwill or Salvation Army. She could have dumped some of that luggage and shirts
like I
and
said,
everything
there's so many
off.
poor people. She could
I'm
have.
wondering why there wasn't, the ultimate yard sale.
Right.
Yeah.
With, you mentioned 13 rooms in this farmhouse that she just kept. So it's puzzling to me why she did not attempt to sell and get rid of
Evidence.
the evidence.
No need to bring your steamer. I have clothes to fit anything.
Well, here's the other thing. How many serial killers collect items off of their victims?
Treasure.
Yeah, but that's
trinkets.
a little excessive. But I think
She
you
could
have
be a
to.
hoarder.
I think you have to keep it to keep the attention at a minimum, though. Even though people said they seen it.
Well,
There
look
was
at,
multiple bones in her basement. I think she's a hoarder.
look at, what was it, Ed Gein? Ed Gein had all that crazy stuff.
I
and all
think you
them,
have
so.
some letters correct, but she wasn't a hoarder.
Forensically, this period is crucial because it represents the height of Belle's killing activity. Later excavations would reveal bodies buried at varying depths, some dismembered, some burned, some wrapped in oilcloth. See, she should have just kept feeding them to the pigs. This
Free
suggested
food.
improvisation. See, we're all actors here. We're not improvers. Not panic, but adaptation. Belle did not rely on a single method. She used whatever worked, whatever left the least trace, whatever fit the moment, probably whatever was close by, I would say. The land absorbed the evidence and no one thought to look. Psychologically, Belle appears more isolated than ever, not lonely, but self-contained. She had no confidants, no allies, and no emotional attachments that weren't instrumental. Lamphere's obsession may have been useful at first, but it also introduced unpredictability. For the first time, Belle was sharing space with someone she did not fully control. That imbalance likely accelerated her next move. In the weeks before the end, Belle told multiple people that she feared for her life. She said Lamphere was dangerous. She hinted that something terrible might happen. These statements were not panicked. They were calm, deliberate, and repeated. In hindsight, they read less like warnings and more like foreshadowing delivered intentionally so they would be remembered later. Because Belle Gunness was not preparing for murder anymore. She was preparing for disappearance.
Oh no, whatever shall I do? I guess that's a Southern Belle, not serial killer Belle.
She's probably like, oh man, whatever shall I do?
Herder. In April of 1908, Belle's warning to neighbors about Lanphier, his alleged threats, reached a climax. She seemed more tense than usual, claiming that she feared for her life, but yet carried herself with the composure that had defined her entire adult life. Then, without clear warning, the farmhouse erupted in flames. All those clothes, I think there was a plan. It's all flammable. It's all fuel. Nothing's going to survive. Neighbors rushed to the property, but the fire consumed almost everything. When the smoke cleared, the scale of the tragedy and the mystery became immediately apparent. Inside the burned farmhouse were the bodies of Belle's 3 children, each tragically deceased. But the adult body found in the ruins far more I was thinking
You wrote
enigma.
this, Dustin.
I was thinking enigma. I'm like, that's breaking codes and atom bomb stuff.
Enigmatic, kids. That'll get you through the SAT.
He doesn't know what that means. It's okay. It's okay.
SATs. It's a test.
I didn't take it.
I told you.
I knew that college was a path that I wasn't going to take.
They told Dustin to come take the SAT, and he went and sat down.
I was like, I want to go build race cars for a living. I don't want none of this school stuff.
He said that test is an enigma to me.
Yeah. So the fun thing is my daughter had her wisdom teeth removed, and guess what? When she goes back to school? SATs. Yeah. Yeah. Anticlimactic, right?
Poor baby.
We already talked about the burning house because I couldn't, pronounce that word. Authorities initially identified it as Belle herself, though the identification was problematic. The body was headless, and its weight estimated to be about approximately 150 pounds. This was far smaller than Belle's documented size of over 280 pounds. Dental records were incomplete, and no photographs existed to confirm the identity. The flames may have
I don't think
destroyed...
that would have mattered if her head was missing.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at. There's no dental records because did they find her head?
No.
They never found
Because the head will tell you it's not her. But here's the thing, too. Even if you're burnt to death, your bones will be bigger and denser at 280 pounds than somebody who is 150.
You sure about
also,
that?
Didn't they say that the tallness?
And the body was shorter.
Yeah.
Well, without
Like
the head,
a
it's
foot.
hard to tell the actual height, but they definitely
Even a Peyton
can
Manning
estimate.
forehead won't make up that size. We're talking like
Okay, if you have a 5'2" body.
You ain't gonna have a 2 foot head.
Exactly. That's you're gonna have a big old neck, or what is it? A turkey neck? A bobblehead?
Giraffe neck.
Or a Peyton Manning forehead.
Hey, don't leave Peyton out of this.
Hey man, Peyton's the GOAT, but man, you could show a movie on his forehead.
They did him dirty in the Hall of Fame.
They did. I don't know how he put a helmet on that head. The fire destroyed key evidence, but experts ultimately noted that certain features of the corpse did not match Belle. This discrepancy has fueled speculations for over a century. Had Belle staged her death using another woman's body as a substitute? What did Stone Cold Steve Austin say? Oh, hell yeah. She did. We love conspiracies, and this is turning now into a conspiracy.
All right. The aftermath of the fire introduced Ray Lanphier into the narrative as both witness and suspect. Lanphier, previously a subordinate and occasionally accomplice, was arrested and later convicted of arson. Under interrogation, he told investigators that Belle had planned the fire meticulously, possibly using another woman's body to fake her death. He claimed that she intended to escape, cash in on her accumulated wealth, and vanish. While some dismissed his statements as self-serving, his proximity to the events and knowledge of Belle's methods lend a chilling credibility to his claims. Excavations of Belle's property following the fire revealed at least 11 bodies, many dismembered, some buried in shallow graves, others burned or covered in quicklime. Analysts have suggested that the true number of her victims may be much higher, possibly 40 or more. Though precise accounting is impossible, many of the men who disappeared after responding to her newspaper ads were never found, their fates recorded only in rumors and letters sent home. The farm had become both a stage and a repository for her crimes, a place where death was hidden in plain sight, disguised beneath the surface of rural normalcy.
You really hate Jackae.
Oh, he loves messing with me.
Making you say rural normalcy.
I just was like,
Say that times five. I can't even say that 5 times fast.
I'm like, this one got, kind of, started off by Jackae, this whole deal. So I was like, well, let her start it.
Yeah.
I
know what you were doing.
I don't think I'm ready to go second, so Jimbo can have the next section, and then I'll have time to get my bearings and read my stuff a couple times before I have to read mine out loud.
Is there any evidence that she ever played for the other team?
Oh.
I mean, because how are you going to get a woman?
I'm going to be honest. The research that I've found focuses entirely on men.
Right.
That we don't really care what happened. They actually found women's bodies on her property in the holes as well as the woman's body in the cellar. And there's just no explanation. Nobody really knows. Nobody really cares, apparently. So if she did bat for the other team,
well, I mean,
more
I didn't
power
know.
to her. I have no idea.
I didn't know if maybe another widow woman, if she was wealthy too. I'm just saying.
I don't think the matrimonial.
You can definitely write a letter pretending to be a man.
This is true too.
That would be a little tougher. You wouldn't be able to do it necessarily.
But we got to think this is the turn of the century, so it probably didn't happen.
I think the agencies she was using to post the ads would not have liked that.
Right.
Now, see, you're going back to
You like a good conspiracy, Dustin,
about
so-
maybe messing with some bodies with the mob. They could have
got her a body.
she could have paid somebody for a body, or you put out help ads that you need help inside.
I need help watching my children.
Yeah,
nanny.
you need a nanny. You
Exactly.
need somebody to cook. You need a housemaid.
We're going to crack this case, Dustin. I mean, you're going to go like the Hardy Boys. We're going to crack this case.
I already cracked it. I just can't wait for us to.
You like this word psychologically too, because I've read it about 10 times. All right. The fire represents a master stroke of control. If Belle perished in the blaze, she chose a dramatic public end that destroyed evidence of her crimes. If she survived, she created the perfect cover: a body of the wrong size, a head missing, no confirming identifiers, and a community convinced she was dead. Either way, the outcome reinforced a central theme of her life. Belle dictated the narrative. The truth of her fate became secondary to the illusion she created, a testament to her meticulous and chilling intelligence. Now, I hope she was smart enough, if this wasn't her, that she had withdrew some money and shoved it under a mattress or something.
I don't think she probably trusted a bank. Let's be honest.
I bet she's got a bunch of money buried on the plant somewhere.
She probably.
My dad
had.
uses the Maxwell House
Coffee cans? Right.
And literally he has said that when he goes, that
There's a map you have to go
there
dig
is,
up.
and it's actually like drawn on the wall of his shed, and he has said he's like, don't let his wife. He's like, don't let her touch anything, because things need to be dug up.
It's down in Tennessee.
I'm not going to answer that.
You already answered at the beginning. You remember, you already misspoke. Because I have relatives in Tennessee too, so I know.
Well, you know what they do? They say
So
there's always money in the banana stand.
Are we talking eastern Tennessee?
So, well, interestingly
Western?
enough, so it's West Point, Tennessee, which is southwestern, but they live in Alabama as well, and so there's property in Alabama too. So
you got to go on a multi-state search.
multi places. Yes.
I hope that he wrapped it in plastic when he put it in.
It's
the
probably
can,
aluminum foil wrapped around it too.
because
so they can't-
those cans deteriorate and the money gets destroyed.
not of its coins.
Well, If it's gold, you're sitting on some money.
So the fire also left lingering questions that could have never really been fully answered. Why was the body lighter than Belle? Why was the head missing? Could she have truly escaped under the cover of flames? Lanfear's testimony, combined with discrepancies in the remains, suggests escape is plausible, though unproven. For decades, investigators, historians, and armchair criminologists have debated the possibilities, each theory resting on a blend of forensic evidence, witness testimony, and speculation. In the end, the fire marks both an end and a beginning. It ended the daily operation of the Belle Gunness farm and her visible presence in LaPorte. It began a century-long mystery that has fascinated the public and criminologists alike. Whether she perished or slipped away into
Anonymity.
Thank you. Well, I was going to say just non-existence. Belle's story became a legend, a dark portrait of a woman who manipulated society, law, and expectation to bend life and death to her will.
After the fire in April of 1908, the mystery of Belle Gunness's fate consumed LaPorte and eventually the nation. For decades, speculation has swung between two possibilities. Belle had died in the blaze, her body hidden amongst the ruins, or that she staged her death and vanished. Evidence supports both scenarios, making her story one of the most enduring enigmas in American criminal history. Those who argue Belle escaped point to the inconsistencies in the burned body. The corpse was headless, which is going to prevent dental verification. The weight was significantly less than Belle's documented 280 pounds. So we're going to fat shame again. Ray Lanfear, her farmhand and former accomplice, testified that Belle had the means and the forethought to fake her own death, suggesting she may have placed another woman's body in her bed, set the house on fire, and slipped away under the cover of smoke and chaos. Lanfear's testimony is contested, but aligns with her known history. Belle had carefully controlled every interaction, every correspondence, every crime scene prior to the fire. If anyone could engineer the perfect disappearance, it would have been her.
Do you want to hear another conspiracy theory?
Yes, I was hoping you guys brought some.
I've just learned this up in LaPorte last weekend. The sheriff, Smutzer, who I mentioned earlier, who's a young man, not bad looking, he was driving a fancy red automobile, very new at the time, when he was investigating the findings at the Gunness farm. People that attended, which people came from miles around, in fact, across the whole country to see Belle's farm after this discovery. And people commented on that car and said,
How do you afford that on a policeman's salary?
How do you? They said he was very committed to the theory that Belle was dead. He was on that prosecutor side saying, Ray Lanfear, you're responsible for this arson and the murder of small children and Belle Gunness. So there's some coincidences there that fall neatly into line.
I'm not going to disagree with that. Like, I don't think it's a conspiracy or a theory. I think that's probably part of the narrative.
We have a picture of the shiny automobile, so.
On the other side, skeptics argue that a woman of Belle's size operating alone would have found escape difficult, especially in the chaos of the fire she ignited. Travel at the time was slow, and assuming a new identity would require extreme caution. Some historians suggest she may have perished after all, and the discrepancies in the body's identifications were due to fire damage, bullcrap, and decomposition, or record-keeping errors that were not really deliberate or anything. They just messed up. Yet the scenario underscores her life's long mastery of deception. Belle's ability to operate for years without raising alarm, ensuring that whether she died or escaped, her victims remained hidden, and the true scope of her crimes would take decades to uncover. Hot take, super fast. I don't have any more talking parts. So here's the story. This is the official. Write it down, take a picture, put it in the archives.
Why don't you wait till the end when everybody gives their theories?
Okay.
All right.
I guess I get one more time to talk.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Well, the post-fire investigation revealed something quite horrifying. At least 11 bodies were discovered buried on the property, many dismembered, some wrapped in oilcloth, some covered in quicklime. Investigators estimated the actual number of victims could have exceeded over 40, though many of the men who responded to her newspaper ads were never located. Letters, newspapers, and eyewitness accounts provide glimpses into her methods: calculated isolation, carefully worded advertisements, and psychological manipulation that compelled her victims to act against their own best interests. Forensic evidence at the time was rudimentary, but modern analysis suggests that Belle understood the limits of law enforcement and exploited them meticulously. Belle Gunness represents a rare convergence of traits: instrumental intelligence, psychopathy, and strategic foresight. She was not driven by rage or impulse. Her murders were profit-driven and meticulously planned, executed with emotional detachment, and hidden under a facade of widowhood and domestic responsibility. Her letters and ads reveal sophisticated manipulation, emotional simulation, and a deep understanding of human need. She's engineered trust, exploited desire for companionship, and leveraged greed and isolation to control outcomes, all without resorting to overt violence until the moment of killing.
Belle's legacy is twofold. On one hand, she is remembered as one of America's most prolific female serial killers whose crimes shocked her community and shaped public awareness of domestic predation. On the other hand, she has become a symbol of cunning, resourcefulness, and the terrifying potential of intelligence wielded without conscience. The unanswered question of her fate, whether she perished in the flames or disappeared into the world, continues to fuel fascination. The possibility that Belle Gunness walked away from the fire undetected reflects a chilling truth. A mind capable of so much planning and control can bend the world to its will, and in Belle's case, perhaps forever evade justice. In the final analysis, Belle Gunness' life is a study in calculated opportunity, psychological insight, and moral detachment. She survived the vulnerabilities of her youth, manipulated the systems of her adulthood, and perhaps even defied death itself. The combination of historical documentation, witness testimonies, and modern forensic understanding paints a portrait of a woman who turned tragedy into advantage, loneliness into leverage, and human mortality into profit. Whether her final chapter was written in ashes or anonymity, I knew I was going to get. Well, you use the same words over and over either. So Belle Gunness, remains a figure whose story challenges assumptions about crime, gender, and the limits of human cunning. Now that we have come to the end of this podcast, kind of, we are now going to get the what do you think happened? And we'll start with our guest. So we're going to start over here with Belle herself. We'll let you do your thoughts, feelings, whatever.
What actually happened.
Oh, the truth.
This is the truth.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth.
You better not.
mouth.
You better not take my truth.
The horse's mouth. Yes.
Okay, and then we'll go to you, and then I guess Dustin.
No, I feel Belle hightailed it out of there. I feel that she, whether she utilized the sheriff to help her escape, but I feel like she got out. I feel like she set it up and she disappeared. So I don't think she was in the basement.
Do you think she went back to Norway?
No, Why? Why would she go back there? It's cold. She went to Florida. I feel like
northern Indiana.
She went to
It gets
Florida.
cold.
Yeah, I feel like she went to Florida and spent
probably
some time
went up
on
to
the
Canada.
beach. Eh?
And she got a job as a lumberjack.
Yeah, she looked like one.
She didn't need a job. She had
She had a lot of money.
close to
She
$1
did
million
have-
or
yes.
over $1 million.
But did they ever find any of that money, or was it all just gone?
I have no record of finding any money dug up on the farm or anything.
Well,
There
paper
is-
money burns. and they
talk
didn't keep money like
that
serial
she
numbers.
went to California, and there were sightings of her potentially in California. And of course,
They know
the
how
whole
to party.
Yeah, but went for gold. Like going out there and pursuing. She was an expert at pursuing the dollar bills, y'all.
Holla. All right. Now let's get
our
the real
resident
truth.
expert.
The historian.
I don't want to give away too much because I want everybody to come out and see Hell's Bell with Southbank here in April and beginning of May. But there is more evidence and more eyewitness testimony that may point to what happened with Belle. And I certainly agree that I do not think she, after amassing so much fortune, would have allowed someone as piddly as Ray Lamphere to kill her and get away with it. I think she had too much riding on the line, and she needed to make a plan. And there's a lot of evidence that on both sides, but especially where
Also,
she was.
not to promote violence here, but I feel that if you picture the two of them in a ring match together. Like Belle on one side, Ray on the other. You've seen what he looks like. My money is on her any day of the week.
She said that, and all I could picture was like them in the bedroom,
I know.
Austin Powers when they're like Frau and him start looking at each other.
I can't repeat everything that was said, but at the racetrack one night, it got pretty
off the
heated.
racetrack.
It got pretty heated. And
Did a woman threaten to beat you up?
Two big names in the late model world got into it, and they happened to pit next to us. And one of the guys on the team was cross-eyed, and he was like, "Look here, you cross-eyed SOB," and he takes a step to the right and says, "You can't see me," and was going to hit him with a jack handle, and they broke it up. But I feel like she probably did oh, come get me. And then she can just step away. So she's going to mess with him. But the official story, she gave some money obviously to the police because we have to account for that new shiny red vehicle.
Allegedly.
It's going to be expensive. So she plans, hey, we're going to set up my death. I am going to come get you, or you're going to come meet me, and we are going to run away. So she gets him hook, line, and sinker that they're going to go run off and be this couple. So I don't know who cut the head off. Probably she was married to a butcher, so she probably did the dirty
Farmer, not a
butcher.
It's not the same.
It was a hog farm. They did have to slaughter hogs.
You do,
Yeah, so you can be a
you do
butcher.
have to slaughter animals.
So she
you
had
farm.
already laid the foundation that she was scared for her life. Everything goes down. She burns the place. She's already got the money. That person who's dead that they probably didn't identify because they thought it was Belle had not a social security number, but she had an ID. She had a name, had an alias. That name and alias was probably taken because when you leave Indiana and get into Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, they don't look for you no more. You're way out of their jurisdiction. So instead of meeting up, she kind of just disappeared on him and left him to take the fall to make the story believable that she was dead. And then she ran off, lived happily ever after wherever she went. Plenty of money. The Norway thing, like you said, I probably wouldn't go back there unless you had a severe attachment to it. But she had no attachment to want to go back. So she went somewhere else and lived life. Who knows if she kept killing?
Well, my dear Watson, let me ask you this. Do we have a record of what happened to the police officer? Do we have a death certificate? Do we know where he went, where he lived, any of that? Has anybody looked into that?
No, but I'm just saying that he took the payoff and he took the payoff not to investigate.
Maybe.
Do we know how tall Nellie was? Was Nellie maybe $150?
Oh,
You know,
that's a creepy thought.
Nellie
because
survived
there's
her sister.
I'm thinking Nellie Farutu or whatever his name is. Or Nellie Olson. No, you're talking about her sister. I get it now.
Yes. Just because they were estranged, but that piques my curiosity. How come the sister never looked into any of them?
Well, what I see with this, we've been doing the Lizzie Borden thing, and there's a lot of similarities between them two sisters and these two sisters, when you look at it,
Well, when you figure out they're up to something and you
And
don't
they
want to be
both
associated
weren't
with it,
very-
it kind of probably scares you.
Yeah.
You don't want to be associated, so you just distance yourself.
right? And what happened at the end? Lizzie got all that money, the inheritance. Remember? 'Cause
And your
her-
money don't buy happiness,
No.
but it makes it easier.
that's what I'm saying. And she basically died alone when we come to find out.
Money don't buy you happiness, but it does buy you a lot of cool stuff.
So we're coming to the end now, and something that we like to do at the end of every episode is actually highlight a missing child. So I believe Jackie has our missing child for this episode.
Yes. Tonight we are looking for Lillian Marie Key out of Avon, Indiana. She has been missing since January 12th of 2026. Lillian may still be in the local area, or she may have been traveling through Indianapolis, Indiana, Vevey, Indiana, Chicago, Illinois. Her ears and nose are pierced. She has a tattoo on her ankle. Her current age is 16 years old, and her missing case number is M3088044136. Any information regarding Lillian Key, please call the Hendricks County Sheriff's Office at 317-745-6269, or you can report it to 1-800-THE-LOST. As always, we will have their information up on the social medias.
All right, ladies, we want to thank you for coming out and joining us on this episode. We want to give this opportunity once again for you guys to give a little bit more information out. Where can people purchase tickets? Where's this at? The dates? Anything you want to say about how you got into acting? Your favorite movie? Since I do a movie podcast, that'd be great too. So we'll start over here with Belle herself, and then we'll let the historian close it out.
Gosh, favorite movie. There's so many.
That's the answer I always get.
I know. It's well, and
So if you were Belle and you were on the run and you can only take one movie to watch for the rest of your life because you're on the run,
That
what are
one
you taking?
movie, are you watching Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings? That is the important question, and if I like you.
That's the question here. That's kind of like, are you Beatles or Elvis?
Well, we got a room
So-
divided here, so you choose wisely.
Okay. Well, I would have to say I've never seen Lord of the Rings.
Thank you.
Neither has
I
him.
knew I liked you.
So I would definitely be Harry Potter.
Thank you. I knew I liked you.
Yeah.
Now for the other side.
Wait a minute. So,
Oh, no. You had so much hope.
Wait a minute. So let's just realize what you just did. You sided with him.
I sided with him.
No, but the other
Have you not
side.
paid attention to this podcast tonight? You
So
sided
this will be the last time I'm ever invited back.
Oh, no,
to
you're more than welcome.
the
The
podcast.
other side just made her preference.
She gave you the Stone Cold Steve Austin.
very, very, very.
Is she on Team Jimbo?
I have a dog named Samwise.
You
I'm
seem
assuming
like a
that's
Potterhead.
the
I'm
name
sorry.
of the character in Lord of the Rings.
So Dustin Jr. over here. But Dustin's only watched the first
In
movie.
3 hours, they did nothing. They did not
Okay, we
destroy
cannot
the
get into
ring.
this. I have a play to promote. We cannot fight about this right now.
We'll have her on our podcast. All right, so let's go over to the historian and the
The evil sister that she
fellow
portrays.
Tolkien lover.
We'll do a special episode. Where we favorite movie. Oh shoot, I had a thought and then I lost it. I have tons, but
You're on a desert island. You get one movie.
the first thing that came to mind just now was Crazy Rich Asians. It's just a pleasure viewing brain candy movie. So, but not my best, most historically inclined. I honestly wasn't a historian that much. I was interested in history before I wrote this play, but this is the first time I've really dived deep into something specifically. So it's been a wonderful opportunity. I'm very grateful for Southbank for their contest that they ran and their willingness to do the world premiere of Hell's Bell. Cheekily subtitled A True Crime Dark Comedy about Indiana's first serial killer. The story is as ridiculous and unbelievable as you heard here today, and more so. So I really hope everybody will think about coming out. I think we're going to be running a giveaway for 2 free tickets that we will talk about later. But you can find more information on Southbank Theatre. That's theater with an R-E, not an E-R, .org. And the tickets are on sale through the Butler University I believe, events center. So you can just Google Hell's Bell with Southbank Theater, and you'll be able to find those tickets. And I'll provide links to our illustrious hosts here. But really appreciate you guys bringing us on, and very excited. I believe we're going to be having you come out to the show and host a bit of a forensic talk for us and a little bit of a live experience if anybody wants to join us. So we'll get that information out to you soon.
Are you sure after you just spent time with Dustin?
Well, I was on good behavior, but I am intrigued with the way this is wrote. Being court-based, it's gonna be.
I want to jump in here too, because I feel like when we get too deep into and we're having the forensics and the talkbacks and things like that, and all of the crime investigation stuff, and yes, it is, but this is essentially 4 actors playing how many characters?
Over 40.
Yeah.
Over 40 characters.
Wow.
And so keep in mind.
I thought like 2 or 3 was impressive.
So keep in mind that this is a dark comedy, but it is going to be a very fast-paced ride of excitement from start to finish. That it's going to be, even if you are not in the camp of the serial killing, it's still going to be an enjoyable,
If you are morbidly
show.
fascinated by these things.
Am I going to
Absolutely.
laugh?
I think so.
I think you will be rolling on the floor.
You have to laugh a little bit when it's something like just like we do. You have to make it somewhat laughable because of the seriousness to take the edge off. But it's got the makings of being very, very entertaining. Like I'm excited.
And I've had the privilege of reading this, and I have to tell you, it is fast. It is accurate. It is like funny, but it's a little bit like disturbing at the same time. It has got so much history in it that even if you're not into the true crime sides of things, come for the history alone, because it's Indiana, it's local, it's our history, and this is like America's most prolific female serial killer, which you never hear about the females.
And that most people have never heard about. That's what I find is the most fascinating thing is this story's not been told to death. It's until I found on a podcast a couple of years ago, it was I'd never heard of it, didn't know nothing. I think some stuff's popped up on like Discovery or something, like time to time you'll get a little bit, but nothing huge.
This actually inspired me. So I am a teacher and I teach 12th grade English. This actually inspired me to create for our research project this spring and I utilized this so students are able to choose, either a conspiracy theory or a true crime or
Where was this when I was in school?
You tell them if they need any info, contact us. We'll help them out.
So they have a project options, and one of their project options is they can do a podcast. They can do a news thing. So it's that thing of they're doing research, but they're researching something fun.
Yeah.
And something that and this is
I couldn't
English.
read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas in high school and do a book report on it.
So Lisa, and if you are they doing it in partners or solo?
So they will do it
in groups.
No, they will do it individually.
Okay.
They are allowed to work together.
Well, I'm saying if you need us,
technical,
if they want to write the podcast and their parents want to bring, or you bring them out here,
That's
they can come
fantastic.
down here and do it with us.
Well, I will. So, from a resource perspective,
at least use the
I will
equipment
please,
to where they can get it in a way to
I will
post it.
please share your podcast information so that they can.
It is.
It's a little explicit. Okay, there is an E.
The actions
And
of
it
Alex
doesn't mean English. Okay.
E for English. Yes.
I want to put this out there. The opinions and views of Alex Stiff and Christopher Morrison are not the opinions of Dustin Anderson, Jimbo, and Jackae. So with that being said, we will do whatever we can to help.
Right.
And we are good people.
Well,
and we're clean.
what I think, for me as a teacher, and what I think is really important, especially with, and this is going into a different rabbit hole, but so many students, they lose out on the love of learning because they're not learning what they want to learn about. And it's things like this that get you fired up and passionate about it. And that's what they need to be learning.
And when you do a podcast and you can put it out there, say, hey, mom, dad, or because my movie podcast, I have my dad on there with me.
Yeah.
So
you've had colleges reach out.
Yeah. I've had a lady said her son loves it because we talk about some of the back stuff in movies and all that. But I also did it. I had my dad on there because one day he's not going to be here.
Exactly.
And we will always have his voice.
Exactly.
So, but we've rattled on long enough. Ladies, thank you for coming joining this crazy podcast. And we have a little closing saying we do every time, which is this episode's coming close. So this has been Dark Discoveries.
The deeper you dive,
The darker it gets.
We shall be so happy when you once get here. My heart beats in wild rapture for you, my Andrew. I love you. Come prepared to stay forever.